Hello and welcome to the Purpose Cycle podcast, the podcast that gives you impactful practices to build towards fruition and fulfillment. Here's a taste of what we've got in store for you today.
I think there's some subconscious side to us now where we just think, I want to achieve X, I'm just going to go do it. And we kind of overlook that actually this is going to be quite tough. So you kind of like discover yourself a little bit more. You learn your own strengths, but you also get very familiar and you learn and acknowledge your own weaknesses as well. So you know yourself as an individual more, but you only know that through exposing yourself and trying things.
Hello and welcome to this latest episode of the Purpose Cycle podcast. My guest this week is an online fitness guru who has amassed over 20,000 followers on Instagram over an impressive 10-year spell, which has seen him work with brands such as PhD Nutrition and Olympic gold medalist boxer Luke Campbell. Having seen his journey since leaving school, evolving a hobby into a passion and then a passion into a business, it is no surprise to me whatsoever the success he's had due to the consistency, hard work and no shortcuts. These principles helped him sculpt the level up programming that he provides clients with what can only be described as incredible results. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Josh Beet. How are you doing, Josh?
Wow, mate, what an intro.
Well,
wow.
I thought...
Wow, the people are going to be so underwhelmed right now, mate, after that intro.
Well, you've got to prepare, haven't you?
Thanks for having me on, mate. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. So, first of all, then we'll start with telling the listeners a little bit about yourself, Josh. What sort of journey you've been on?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? It's weird because it feels like I started this yesterday, but when I actually start to relearn, reflect, and think about how long it's actually taken, there's been so many ups and downs and lefts and rights and barriers. In reality, it's taken me a long time, and this is, I guess, my 10th year now of doing kind of like fitness coaching, I guess. And I include kind of like the early days from where I began, where it wasn't really a business. It was more of like a hobby that kind of like built into a business. Yeah. One of the things that I say to a lot of the people that I work with is that I didn't actually intend to become a fitness coach. It kind of just happened. I came out of university and I was studying sport and exercise therapy, which it was a brilliant degree, to be fair. Brilliant degree, really well-rounded. Covered loads of different kind of like bases of fitness and physiology and anatomy and biomechanics, and gave me a really kind of like well-rounded sort of like base to work from, because I've always wanted to stay in the sport and health field. And then afterwards I started working in the local retail store. I was like the retail manager there, and I could have been selling clothes, it could have been whatever, but it was in sports nutrition, so I enjoyed it. And I guess people used to come through the door, and I've said this all the time. People were, willing just to throw so much money at trying to improve the health and the well-being and get towards the fitness goals, whatever it was, whether it was building muscle, dropping body fat, a little bit of both, improving muscular endurance, whatever. And I guess it started. This is where the journey began, with me kind of like saying, well, you don't need to spend X amount of £100 on supplements. What you want to be doing is looking at your nutrition and your training. And I'd spend a lot of time with them, mate. I'd just spend a lot of time because I was passionate about it, going through, little bits of, the nutrition. Well, tell me a little bit more about what you eat, and, tell me how you train. And I would just give really small, short, little, little clips of advice, really, where they could go away and implement it, just small actionable steps. And I actually saved them a lot of money, but gave them a lot of value and advice. And then I guess 4 to 6 weeks later, they'd come back through the door and it'd be, Josh, I've dropped 3 pounds, and, I'm starting to see a bit of definition. And, is there any way that you do diet plans, or do you do training programs? And that's kind of where I started to build my my client base from originally, mate. Like I said, this is my 10th year now. If you start to include those early days, where it wasn't really a business, because it was never intended to be, but, it goes back quite a way. And like I said at the beginning, mate, it feels like I've blinked and I'm now 10 years later. But then when you really think about the whole journey, I could be here for hours telling you about it, mate. All the challenges that I've come up against, and, every single time you've had to pivot and adapt and amend and, keep moving forward. Because as you know, mate, any sort of journey, no matter what you're on in life, it's not sunshine and rainbows. You're always going to be up against challenges. So, but yeah, I guess that's kind of like a quick, kind of like to where I am now and from where it began.
Yeah, brilliant. And just when you said as well, like about the old intro being underwhelming, and it seems like yesterday, I think there's quite a large degree of humility there as well from yourself, because I've seen from quite a close perspective your journey, having followed you probably from school. So I've seen actually the page take off itself, and I think it must have been quite early on in the journey. You helped me as well with a program, a sort of 6-week program. Your programs now stressed a couple of things, but the main word I see and a lot of your posts is accountability. So why is accountability so important to you?
Do you know what, mate? I think that society is changing, and I don't want to kind of go off on a tangent here, but society is changing. It's becoming a lot more convenient. It's becoming a lot more, things are on demand. I laugh, but looking back, 15 years ago, my parents used to take me and my sisters to Blockbuster. To go, go get 3 for a 10 of DVDs, and it was an event. You had to go to Blockbuster. You had to kind of like, if it was 3 for a tenner, I got a DVD, my 2 sisters got a DVD. There was a little bit of negotiating that was going on. Well, I want this DVD, but I also want this one. Well, you got to pick one. And, those are kind of, I look back, and I know that's a really crazy example, but those are kind of like good life skills, and that sort of stuff doesn't happen now. You've got Netflix, things are on demand. You can go onto Sky and there's all these movies on demand. Things are there at the click of a finger, mate. Amazon Prime, Amazon Video, they have that as well. And food as well. Things like Just Eat. Within 10 minutes, I could have a pizza at my door. So society, and I guess the way we live nowadays, is very on demand. It's very easy. It's very convenient. And I think that as human beings, I think we naturally, whether we like it or not, we all do, we all gravitate towards comfort. We all gravitate to what's easiest. Well, what's going to cause me the least amount of friction? What's going to cause me the least amount of stress? So we're always going to naturally be drawn towards that route. So the reason I think accountability is so important is because of that. If you don't have accountability and you're not keeping accountable, or you've not got somebody there to kind of check in with, or bounce ideas off, or soundboard with, you're kind of left to your own devices. And a lot of people struggle to keep themselves accountable. So yeah, I think accountability is a massive one in particularly in my field. But if whatever the goal is, if you want to be a successful businessman, you need to keep yourself accountable. You need to be doing your research. You need to be studying the market. You need to look at your products. You need to look at your branding. You need to understand your selling points. You need to learn margins and pricing. There's so much that you need to keep yourself accountable with. And I guess society now, because it's just so convenient and easy, I think I don't want to say audacity. I don't want to say that a lot of people are audacious with what they want to achieve nowadays, but I think that it's tough. It is tough to really achieve something that's worth keeping. It's a lot harder than what I think people imagine in the onset, because of the way we live nowadays. Everything's so convenient and easy. I think that I think there's some subconscious side to us now where we just think, I want to achieve X, I'm just going to go do it. And we kind of overlook that actually this is going to be quite tough. So, accountability and having somebody there to kind of like steer you on your journey. And like I said, just give you a bit of a soundboard and somebody to check in with. It's really, really important.
Yeah, brilliant. And also, you mentioned there about that instant gratification almost, really. Your trips to Blockbuster, you'd be building up to that all week at school thinking, I need to have a really good week. And if I can go to Blockbuster on a Friday and get those DVDs. So you're almost like, you're not waiting straight away. You've had one good day at school, there's Netflix. You have to be consistent for the week, which for a child is quite a tough thing. And then you end up having that sort of delayed gratification of, wow, I've really worked towards that and it's paid off. So yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, completely, mate. And this is the thing with everything now being on demand, the convenience becomes the norm. Do you know what I mean? So when then you need to really put in the reps and you need to put in the work to achieve something, that then becomes so difficult because that's so alien to what your norm has become. If your norm has become, watching Netflix every night. And, if you want something to eat, you order off Just Eat. And if you want to get a lift somewhere, you order an Uber, you book an Uber. Things are so easy that the moment you have to then start putting in some real work where you can't really hide, you can't hide away from the reps. You've either done them or you haven't. That's when it becomes tough. So you're right, mate. Delaying gratifications at the time, you don't know you're doing it. It's just the way it was. I guess 15, 20 years ago, that's just the way it was. But nowadays, it's changed a lot, and I think that the younger generation that'll be kind of like growing up now, it's completely different to when me and you were kids. Do you know what I mean? So it's a different world, it's a different society, it's a different age, mate.
With that in mind, then we talk about it's almost an entitlement, isn't it? Here's the money, Josh. I want to be in great shape tomorrow. But is this why you feel like it's important to work with a client for a minimum of 3 months to really educate them on the process?
I think so, mate. Yeah, and the thing is with fitness, it's fitness has always been one of those categories full of kind of like false promises, I guess. You look at if you look at kind of like you see, the thing is with fitness, everything from fitness starts in America and it comes over to the UK. That's kind of like how it's always been. And you look at the old magazines, you look at the old bodybuilding brands, you look at the old kind of like back when I was younger, it was forums, and you look at all the ads and things like that are on there, and it's get shredded in 4 weeks, or build a rock hard 6-pack in 6 weeks, or whatever the advert was. It was always over promising and under delivering, and the time scale was ridiculous. It was unrealistic. And I guess I could work with somebody for 4 weeks and I could really beast them, mate. I could really beast them. I could demand, excessive expenditure and excessive output, and I could really restrict the calories. But in reality, how are they going to look after those 4 weeks, or how are they going to look? Do you know what I mean? So let's say I beasted somebody for 30 days. You do 4 weeks with them. Let's say you really beast them, you get them in great shape. But then how do they look 4 weeks after that? Because the programming that I've given them for those 30 days is going to be so unsustainable. It's almost, I'm almost like setting them up for failure. They're not going to be able to maintain that. So I guess the reason I like to work with people for a minimum of 12 weeks is because I can do it correctly. I can program safely. And when I program for my clients, every time I write out a plan or I'm looking at their programming, I'm thinking to myself, are they going to be doing this in 5 years? Let alone 4 weeks after they've left, the program. But are they going to be able to do this in 5 years? Are they going to be able to do this in 10 years? What are they going to be able to take with them long term? And I think one of the biggest things that a lot of fitness professionals like to say is, working with a personal trainer, it's investing in yourself, but it's not really, because if you're not learning something or acquiring skills that are going to serve you for the long term, that's not an investment. An investment is something that serves you and pays you dividends over the long run, right? That's an investment. Yeah. So that's kind of where my mind's at with the programming now. It's like, 12 weeks minimum. Let's do this correctly. At the same time, let's not drag our heels, but let's do this in the right manner. Let's get you an astonishing transformation, but really level up these habits, your mindset, your confidence, the way you carry yourself. And I don't want to talk too much about this, but almost like level up your identity as well. You've got to allow time to evolve your identity. And I know that sounds quite deep, but that's ultimately what you're doing. If you're building new habits and you're building a new way of life, you're building a new you. So that doesn't come in 4 to 6 weeks, unfortunately. You've got to give it time to evolve and kind of like cement in. So yeah, I guess that's why, as the years have gone on, the program's adapted and the ethos has slightly changed. And, that's why I am where I am now, I guess, with the programming side of things.
Yeah, and it's a really unique take on it as well, because I can't say that I've seen any other online fitness coaches or anyone like that offering that sort of specific and in-depth programming to change like you said, the habits of the clients. Especially, we spoke off air just then about James Clear's Atomic Habits and making it part of your identity rather than goal orientated. So you always get this sort of 4 weeks before the holiday, starve yourself, 8-minute abs, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
That the pictures decline afterwards, after the big event, and that's probably why. Yeah, amazing. Well,
of course. And by the way, that Atomic Habits is a fantastic book. It's something that I recommend all my clients to actually read. to kind of like, go through that book and really look at habits in detail and how you can acquire them and how you can keep them and how you can merge them into your day-to-day life. Brilliant read.
It's definitely helped me. I was always quite sporty, and I liked that side of things. Never much of a reader or a writer, and then since starting this project of a book, it's really got my habits on board with like write little and often, little bit every night. Then I'm not going to bed and thinking of ideas. It's all out there. My sleep's improved, that sort of thing, and it's a holistic package, isn't it? I suppose health and fitness, mindfulness, all of those things.
1,000,000%. I couldn't agree with you more, mate. And this is one of the things when like sometimes when people inquire, I guess it's not their fault, the reason why they ask it in this manner, but I get a lot of people saying, hi mate, do you do diet plans? And it's like that, yes, but kind of no as well. That's just one kind of small segment of the programming, I guess. The diet plan itself, the nutritional element is one part of it, but it's not kind of it in its entirety. Like you said, it's the holistic approach. It's it's how are you living, it's how are you sleeping, it's how are you thinking, and the interesting thing about consumption as well is for me, and I'm sure you're the same, I don't see consumption just as what you eat and drink. It's what you see, it's what you hear, it's what you absorb with your environment, and the awareness of that is massively important for your longevity with what you're doing and your results. And if you're not aware, see, it's all right smashing out a world-class nutrition plan, right? Anybody could smash that out for 6 weeks, but what about if everything else around it, the infrastructure around it isn't solid and it isn't all married together? That's where it's going to become unsustainable, and you're not going to be able to do that long term. So I think that again, we're stealing something from the book again, aren't we? But I think that there was one situation where he was talking about the 1% rule, or was it the 2% rule? I can't remember what it was, where he was saying, very much so like, you want to kind of like level up every area 1 or 2%, not just focus on the diet plan being 100%. Even if I can improve someone's nutritional kind of like habits and routine by 20%, that's a nice improvement. If I can improve the training kind of like schedule and programming and the way they kind of periodize it all by 20%, that's an improvement. If I can improve the sleep by 50, that's a great improvement. So it's not about getting one thing at 100. It's about everything coming up together. And the best way that I can explain this is, and I say this to a lot of my clients, it's about, imagine like every single element that ties in. It's like a cog in a clock. You want every single cog to be working, because if there's one cog that isn't working, the whole system's going to kind of like be flawed. So, you want everything kind of working in sync and kind of like in harmony, so that, the full clock as a whole operates 24 hours a day,
Yeah. And that's why you see a lot of people with that almost excitement of anticipation. I've bought some new gym gear that almost feels better than going to the gym and doing it yourself. It's a quick shot of dopamine, but what you want to do is really, over a long period of time, build a lifestyle and, like you said, an identity.
Yeah, for sure, man.
What I want to do is sort of take it right back then to, not too far back, but to sort of the latest cycle in your journey, as it were, and look to the aspiration phase, so the first sort of phase of what I call the purpose cycle. What were the external triggers that made you want to open up your own gym space, be a success online? So what was the end goal, the external motivation in that sense?
Well, I was employed by a sports nutrition brand for 3.5 years, and I absolutely loved it. And I learned so much there, and I wouldn't change any of it for the world. But I just think as I started to get older, and and we evolve as people, don't we, as time goes on, I think that I just figured out that I wanted to just kind of like be in control of my own destiny, I guess, mate, and just, have something that I could create, that I could put my own stamp on, something that I could be really proud of. Because I'm really passionate in this field, and anybody that works with me knows that I am. I'll answer any questions at any time. I really do. I can't help but get involved and get in fully engaged with the programming and answering questions and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess that was my calling. I felt like I needed to just have something of my own with my own identity. And yeah, I guess I just took the leap to go self-employed, and extend and build on what was becoming a reasonably successful side business. You know, it was a side business at the time. It's funny because I always used to kind of like define it as pocket money. It was my pocket money. You know, my employment gave me my bread and butter, and it was my pocket money. But it started to grow bit by bit by bit, year on year on year. And I just think I was at a phase in my life where, you know, it was my 30th. I'd just had my second child. You know, it was November. We were about to go into a new year. There was just a few things that kind of like clicked, I guess. And I just thought, you know what? Now's my time. I don't know what it was. I couldn't tell you specifically, to be honest, but just there was a combination of things like, you know, my you know, a lot of the time I like to do a lot of stuff on gut instinct, and I guess my instinct was just telling me, now's your time. You know, this is what you enjoy doing. It felt right, and that's when I went for it, I guess.
Suit Up Apparel is a new menswear company who provide customers with a compelling range of products that combine looking amazing with comfort. The team at Suit Up Apparel know how testing the day-to-day grind can be, so they have focused their collections around one simple phrase: look great, perform even better. Suit Up are offering new customers 20% off their first order with the code WELCOME20, but don't worry, the Purpose Cycle podcast listeners can get 10% off future orders by using the code PURPOSE at checkout as well. Go on to suitupapparel.co.uk, that's suitupapparel.co.uk to see the fantastic products on offer, and remember to stay sharp and suit up.
Speaking of your gut instinct then, and you mentioned as well taking ownership of you know, your own life. Was there anything that you had to address from your own perspective? You know, did you have to sort of look yourself in the mirror and think, right, I've got these things that I need to improve at? Because it might be that, of course, you know, you've worked in sports and your nutrition side was all great, but did you understand maybe the whole business element of running something, or was it maybe you know, letting go of some responsibility and bringing a team to help you? What was the challenges that you faced with yourself?
So I've never been a business owner. So that was one thing that I knew was going to be extremely difficult. I knew that was going to be hard. I knew that there was going to be some different challenges on the journey ahead. You know, when you're employed, to be honest, you do your role, and it kind of stops there. That's your remit. This is what you're kind of like, you know, you're supposed to do, Josh. These are your kind of like KPIs, where you go, and it does kind of stop there, because obviously other employees have their roles, HR, accountants, you know, the MD, everybody has their own different kind of like things and, you know, responsibilities, I guess. Whereas going self-employed, I knew that I would have to be on top of my accountancy, and I hate that, by the way. I hate that. So I knew that I was going to have to do stuff that I didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, even though because I wanted to I wanted to transform this into a proper business. You know, I wanted to make it a proper business. You know, and for me to get legs out of it, and for me to make it work long term, I knew that I had to, you know, upskill my business skill set, I guess. So I knew that there was going to be challenges ahead. So I knew that I needed to be switched on, and I needed to learn these things. So I knew that. And then secondly, one of the things that I guess I wasn't ever concerned about this, but it was in the back of my mind, and I was reminding myself about it, was that I was going to be my own boss. You know, and we spoke about it earlier, accountability. You know, I could have quite easily, you know, slept in bed till 11 a.m. I don't ever do that, but I could have done. You know, I've got no one, you know, breathing down my neck saying, you know, why are you not at your desk at 9 a.m. You know, so I could have done. I had all this freedom, and I had nobody looking after me, nobody kind of like checking up on me. So I knew that I had to be on point with kind of like my organizational skills. You know, you need to build your own kind of like schedule, Josh. You know, you need to map out your days. You need to, you know, I am quite meticulous with it. You know, I look at what I'm doing by the hour. You know, people think that's a low priority task. It's not. You know, if you can organize your day and you can be prepared, you know, everything runs a lot smoother. So I guess that was something as well that I was aware of, and I had to kind of like, it was going to be new. I guess it was just going to be new. I didn't have concerns, but I was aware of all these changes. So yeah, I guess that those were kind of like the main challenges that I kind of like recognized were about to kind of happen.
Yeah. And we always say in the next sort of stage of the realization, then there's different types that I like to describe. And the first one was realization of self. So you've obviously said to yourself, right, this is what I need to do in order to be successful. And you applied it straight away. There's also the realization of others. And maybe the people around you might say, you know, oh, he's just doing his hobby, or, you know, oh, are you sure you want to leave this, you know, secure 9-to-5 job? Was there anything with regards to your circle of influence that you had to maybe change, or how have they affected your success?
Yeah, definitely. I think your closest circle is your family, right? That's your closest circle. You know, your direct family. You know, you see them every day, or you're in very close communication with them if you don't live with them. And I must admit, you know, my close family were really kind of like, I don't think they ever doubted me. I think that would be unfair to say. But I think that they were concerned for what I was about to do. And I think that they were thinking to themselves, oh, you know, you're in a secure job here. And don't get me wrong, mate, I wasn't being paid an astronomical salary, but I was on all right money. I was on all right money. You know, you know, things are going good, Josh. You know, things are going sweet. Why would you try and disrupt this? And that was a challenge, because, you know, you've got people that you love around you, and the kind of what they were doing is they were bringing to the surface all of that kind of like the potential consequences if this doesn't work. And then it's like that kind of like realization of self, what you just mentioned. I really like that. It's kind of like, you know, you've got to really be truthful with yourself. You've got to be really truthful with yourself. Are you ready for this? You know, because they are right. If you don't pull your weight, and if you don't do this could end up with an egg on your face. You know, you're going to get up, and are you going to put in the work? And, you know, are you willing to kind of learn and adapt and have that humility to keep progressing? And I guess I backed myself, mate. I thought, you know what? Yeah, I think it'll be all right. You know, my gut instinct was telling me, yes, do it. And, you know, and I've never been shy of work, mate. I've never been shy of putting in work and putting in hours and putting in effort. And, you know, this is a field that I love. You know, it's the perfect field for me, because I'm working with individuals that want to level up, that want to transform the bodies, that want to transform the minds. This is what I'm naturally passionate about. So it's like, well, if you can't do it with this, Josh, you know, you're not going to do it with anything else. So yeah, I guess it was, again, just, I don't want to say self-belief, because, you know, it kind of was, but it was just, again, going with my gut, you know. But you're right, you know, and also a lot of, and listen, I'm not knocking anybody, because everybody has their own life and they can make their own decisions, and everybody has different goals, which is fine. But I would probably say, like, my goals are different to some of my friends' goals. So your peer group might behave or do something differently to what you're doing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But what you've got to try and remember is, and what I was thinking to myself is like, they're not you, Josh. You know, you're doing, this is you. This is what you want to do. This is the identity that you want to build. This is what, you know, you want to become. So you have to make the call, you know. So it's really hard, because at the same time where you respect kind of like close friends, close family, you know, your peer group, you've got to stand on your own 2 feet with humility. And you've obviously got to take that calculated risk, but you've got to detach yourself from all that, and be truthful with yourself, and make a decision based on what's going on in your head.
Yeah, brilliant. And ultimately,
I know that's really deep and quite heavy.
But no, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect for what this podcast is looking at, really. And ultimately, you have got to live that journey yourself. No one else is living that, really. Obviously, you'll have influences, like you said, in, you know, your second child being born, and those circumstantial sort of realizations. But ultimately, it's, you know, taking people on board and doing it yourself. I'm looking at my inner circle. I don't think any of them are into this sort of personal development kind of thing. I'm like, oh, have you seen this book? And they're like, yeah, great. You know, and that's the sort of end of the conversation. And that's just how it goes. Everyone's different, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And what I find purposeful, and what I find, what I have a passion for, you know, and I respect this, it isn't for the next guy or girl. It just isn't, you know. And this is the thing, we're all individuals with our own right. So, you know, whatever I'm pursuing and whatever I'm doing, that's just me. It's not like I'm better than you, or you should be like this, or I should be like you. It's you know, we all need to do what we all need to pursue what we find meaningful, I think, and what we can see ourselves, you know, investing ourselves into, investing our time, our energy, our efforts into.
Yeah.
There's no kind of right or wrong. It's very subjective based on who you are and what you value and what your core values are and what you believe in and what you want to pursue. So yeah, it was about me, and it was about my family. And you know, sometimes, you know, there's a great saying, isn't there? You know, better the devil you know. But at the same time, well, maybe not. You know, you don't know if you don't know if you don't ever take the leap and you don't go for it. You know, the last thing that I wanted to do, you know, John, was, you know, in 5-10 years, look back and think to myself, I should have done this.
Yeah.
You know, I should have done that. You know, so there was a side of me that thought, do you know what? That would be worse than going for it and potentially failing. So even if I took the leap and I failed and I couldn't make it work for whatever reason, I would have preferred that to not trying, and then 5 years time thinking, oh, woulda, coulda, shoulda, maybe. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the similar sort of outlook I've got with this, with the book. You know, if it doesn't get published, I've got something to hand to my kids and say, there's a little life story sort of thing. So it's worth just going and taking the plunge. And you mentioned there about your values. How much have they changed then over the last 10 years, since from when you've started to now?
Wow. Well, 10 years ago, you know what, mate? It's a funny one, you know, because I sound like a granddad here now, but 10 years ago, I didn't really have any responsibilities. You know, I was 20 years of age, you know, I just finished university. I didn't, my career wasn't really underway. I didn't have any kids. I didn't have a mortgage. I didn't have a house or bills. So there was nothing really on my shoulders. So I guess, I know myself, or I'd like to think of myself as a good person. You know, I think I've got a good I don't want to say good heart. You know, I like to, I consider myself, you know, a kind guy. You know what I mean? Generous. But I didn't really have any values, if that makes sense. You know, morally, I was a nice guy, but I didn't really stand for anything. And I think that comes with time, to be honest. And that's why I said I think I'm going to sound like a granddad. But as time gets older, you find your values. You kind of like discover yourself a little bit more. You know, you learn your own strengths, but you also get very familiar, and you learn and acknowledge your own weaknesses as well. So you know yourself as an individual more, but you only know that through exposing yourself and trying things. And, you know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's just the way it goes. But you evolve as time goes on. I guess this is what ties into my program. You kind of level up, you know, but you only do that by putting in the reps and by trying and putting yourself out there. So I guess back then, mate, I'm not trying to disrespect myself, but I don't think I really had any core values. I think, you know, like I said, morally, I was a decent human. I was, you know, you know what I mean? But like now it's more about kind of like, I know what my purpose is now. You know, this is what I love. I love working in health and fitness. I've lived it. I've lived it for the majority of my life. So, you know, that the proof's in the pudding there. You know, my passion has withstood the test of time. And now I know that I want to help other people not live like me, but follow a same sort of ethos, because I know that it makes me feel great. It builds kind of like self-esteem. You know, if you're fit and you can move well, that helps you in everyday life. You know, if you're fit and you can move well, you've got better, you know, your state of mind is more positive, and that rubs off on your family, and that rubs off on your friends. And, you know, when you're in a room, you bring positive energy, you don't bring negative energy. And I guess that's what I want to give to my clients, you know, or kind of like, you know, help with. That's what my purpose is, mate. So yeah, I guess that's how it's changed. You know, you kind of discover it as time goes on, but it takes time to really understand or really find what your true kind of like meaning is. What's my purpose? What am I here for? What am I doing?
Yeah.
So back then, I wouldn't have been able to tell you. But, you know, things change, you know, and also I've got kids now, you know, I've got a house of my own, you know, I've got a girlfriend, you know, that I've got responsibilities. So, you know, life just gets a little bit more serious, and, you know, it's time to stop messing around, and it's time to, you know, what am I doing? What's going on here?
Yeah, I agree with you there. And you find your why as you sort of progress through life, really. Do you see then a consistency. You said about the clients coming to you and you wanted to put them on that similar journey. Do you see a consistency of their starting points, or do you see a nice different sort of variety to where they're beginning their journey?
I think everybody's individual in their own right, aren't they? You know, I've got I work with male and female clients. You know, there's you know, different ages as well, and obviously everybody has different starting points physically as well. And in addition to that, everybody's got different environmental situations as well, different jobs, different home situations. I mean, I've got some clients that are 22-year-old lads that have, you know, that are still living at home with the parents. You know, and I've got some, you know, 33, 34-year-old, you know, single mums that are on the program. So very kind of like, I would say a pretty broad spread of kind of like clientele, but all of them share one commonality, and that's that they want to level up. You know, they're not happy with where they're at now. You know, a lot of them are struggling with energy. A lot of them are struggling to kind of find a routine with the nutrition. They don't really know what they should be eating, what they shouldn't be eating. You know, they don't know what they need to do if they eat something like a, you know, a cheat meal or something like that. You know, they don't know how to kind of like, you know, program around that. You know, they're a little bit unclear on what they should be doing with the training to achieve a certain goal. And so, yeah, in that kind of sense, they share a lot of kind of like commonalities, but they are all individuals within their own right. So for me, it's not about making their life perfect and making their life a direct kind of like replica of mine. That's not what it's about. It's about kind of like working with them on a personal level and saying, right, look, you know, tell me a little bit more about your world. Let me understand it a little bit more. And if I can help, then I will do. You know, for example, there was a lady that I was speaking to, I won't say who it was, but, you know, yesterday morning, and she was saying about how she, you know, she was struggling to get a water intake up. So I was kind of like saying like, well, look, you know, when do you have your breakfast? You know, I have it at 8 a.m. And when do you have your lunch? I have it at 12. And okay, when do you have your evening meal? Well, I have it at like about 5:30, 6 o'clock. Okay, and you're doing that consistently? Yeah, I am, yeah. Okay, cool. So what we'll do is, why don't we just bind a new habit to that current habit? Why don't we just make sure that every time you have your breakfast, lunch and tea, you're having like a pint of water or a pint of cordial or something there with it? So I'm not trying to make these people go out of the way and say, you know, you should be doing this because I do that. Again, I'm just trying to help. I'm just trying to help them find a way to merge good habits, but in their own style.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, that concludes part one of my interview with Josh Beet. Unbelievable insight there into how habits can form, but also leveling up and making a better you. So, be sure to check out part two, which is on all podcast platforms, including the one that you're listening on now. So be sure to check it out. I'll see you on the other side.
Watch me not stop though.